I think we're good. All right, good deal. Come on. There we go. All right, let's do it. So, any other kind of housekeeping things before we go ahead, get started, do all the things? I think we're good to go. Right. One of these things tonight, I will say, I might be a little biased, right? But I really enjoy training and development. How many of you all have maybe taken a little sneak peek of this tonight? Maybe already reviewed the reading. How many of you all like training and development? For me, I will say that a lot of sometimes when we're going through all of this stuff, it hasn't really clicked yet, right? Like it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of figuring out laws and acts maybe that we've never heard of, maybe things we've done in practice, but never really done in, in theory or better yet. And so I feel like this kind of unit 2 is where I, in my studying, start to feel a little bit of a pivot. Okay. I start to see a little bit of light at the end of my tunnel. And that's because I feel like I can relate to learning, right? Because we've all, whether we've are a student now where we're doing these classes, you've been a student, even if it was far, far long ago, right? In high school and in college, right? Like you've been that. Hey, even in your workspaces, right? You're trying to learn, you're trying to grow. Many of us have been begging for opportunities to grow and learn. So I feel like for me, this particular unit is where I start to kind of have a little bit more light bulbs. I start to feel a little bit more like, aha, and I don't feel so lost. So hopefully these aha moments happen for you as well as we're going through this. And if not, that's okay. But give it to like the middle of this unit, right? And then let's kind of see, right? And then we'll touch base, because if you're not having some aha moments about studying, what to study, what to do, then let's reach out and kind of figure it out for us, okay? So when I think about training, there's a difference between training and education, okay? We're going to train for things like fire drills. We're going to train for how to change a tire. We might train on, how many of you all love YouTube? I think that at this point in my life, I probably at least have a strong master's degree in YouTube, right? I'm going to go out there and figure out all things through YouTube, how to hang TVs, how to do my makeup, how to make random dinners, right? YouTube, it is. YouTube college is my buddy, right? So we learn things and we train on them, right? And then we just kind of have this general knowledge, right? So I'm not saying that I can go out now and become a makeup artist because I've trained a couple of times on watching some YouTube videos, or I can't say I'm going to make my new profession at going out and hanging up TVs as a new profession. No, not at all. I just have this kind of, specific knowledge, if you will, right? And so I feel good about this, right? I've learned a lot. I can apply that. And if I keep doing this, if I keep training, if I keep getting better at it, well, now eventually, like, wow, I'm getting better. Wow, I am really good. Wow, maybe I have a knack for this because I've trained so long. So now maybe I can change my profession to a makeup artist. Maybe now I can start this wonderful maybe I can become a chef. Maybe now I can go ahead and start to hang TVs. Maybe I can do all of that, right? Because I kept going with this training. I was able to apply this specific skill set versus education. That's where I just have this general knowledge, right? Someone says, oh, do you like to do DIYs? Many of you might say, sure. Yeah, I have a general knowledge of what do-it-yourself is. Absolutely. Hey, do you like to go on vacation? Many of you might have a general knowledge of what vacation is. Sure, absolutely. Right? We might enjoy it. Okay. If I said, I want you to have a general knowledge of business, because many of you might even have business degrees. They've been looking at a business degree, just general knowledge. Okay. But even HR degrees. Okay. But once you came over and after you graduated and after you got that education, now, no matter what job you applied for, whether it was a assistant coordinator, if it was the CEO of the company, you still had to be trained, right? They still had to train you with specific knowledge on how to do the job at this particular company. It doesn't matter if you have all the way to a PhD. Okay, you can have several PhDs. You still got to be trained on how to do a particular role. Okay, many of us can swim. We have the education on how to swim, but are we Michael Phelps? Many of us have the education on how to play tennis, right? But are we Serena? Right? We even have the education on how to do a cartwheel, but I can guarantee that I am definitely not, right? Simone Biles. So we can see the difference between training and education, why it's so important, okay? And whenever you're thinking about training, It's always going to start at these big pillars. You're going to see assessment, training and development, evaluation, and feedback. Okay. We're always going to start there. So you're going to assess that you have a problem, right? Because you're going to have a need. Why do you even need to perform training? What is the reason why? Okay. Because your business is going to grow. And how do we get people on the same page? Right? They're going to be, maybe you decided that you need a new email system. You got to train the people. Maybe, how many of you all might have an issue at work where a lot of people are reporting out sick? Okay. And you're noticing that maybe the sick time is not getting reported properly. Okay. So you're going to need some training on how to utilize that system, right? And you assessed what the problem was. And this is not a fact that you have to memorize, but it's something that I thought was interesting. That, again, if you're going to bring someone in, we talked about the yield ratios. We talked about that last time we got together, the background checks, the selection of those employees, doing all of those things it takes to get the right candidate, right? That one person, okay? Now, let's say this, a candidate only made $8 an hour, okay? And we did all of this training and they just were like, well, they were almost a good candidate, but maybe they just need a couple of more pieces of training. We're like, you know what? I don't have the time for that. Let's just let them go. Right. Well, in order to replace that $8 an hour candidate or person who we hired, they actually is going to cost our company $9,500, right? To replace an $8 an hour employee. So sometimes we hear the expression, it's cheaper to keep them, right? Maybe it's cheaper to actually train our employees. But before we can just go out and say we're going to train them, we have to assess what actually has to be needed for this training. Okay. You have a problem. Okay, you're going to figure out what that need is. Then you're going to go ahead and develop that training. Okay. If you forget everything else that we say tonight, if you forget everything else about HR in general, please remember that when in doubt, evaluate. How else do we know that this is working? Okay. In a perfect world, rainbows, horseshoes, unicorns, leprechauns, perfect world, butterflies, you always have time to evaluate. Okay, you have to see if it's working. Right? We sometimes in our real world scenarios, we get impatient. We don't take the time to evaluate. We're like, nope, didn't give me an instant result. It doesn't work, moving on. Where sometimes we need to evaluate things for maybe 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, maybe even a year, depending upon what we've implemented. Okay. And then we're going to get some feedback. You'll notice here that all of these arrows, they're continuous. You're probably like, why? I'm even getting a little seasick from them. But ever started doing something and then something else popped up? Ever started maybe fixing a problem at work? And the next thing you noticed, you were fixing maybe like a 401k issue. And you were like, I noticed that someone didn't have their deductions come out on their 401k. So I kind of assessed that they have a problem. Right. And then you start to review and kind of figure out. And the next thing you know, you peel back another layer. You're like, wait, people haven't had deductions come out properly in 6 months. Oh, wait, actually, now we have something wrong with the vendor and the file that we're sending over. And oh, wow. And now every time you kept peeling back another layer, it was another problem. You never had that happen at work, right? And so every time you're doing this, you're assessing something new. You're trying to figure out what we can do to stop this and go ahead and train people to ensure that these things don't happen again. Okay. One way that we can think about could be our ADDIE model. It's a 5-step model used to create effective training. Okay? So we are going to, remember, assess. We have to figure out that we have a problem, right? We could come up with a training plan, right? A training need. For instance, I'm moving this weekend, right? And so in the move, I had to assess, where do I want to start? Right? Hey, you realize that you have a lot of individuals who aren't performing in your job. So you had to go ahead and say, what is happening here? How can we get them up to speed? Okay. Then we're going to start to design a proper training to help them. You're going to have to do storyboards, particularly. Maybe determine, what is your goal here? Hey, my goal, we go back to me moving, right? My goal was saying that I want to be out of here, out of my place by Thursday. Okay. That was my goal in mind. So everything that I'm doing surrounding moving, right, is all about making sure I meet that goal. And I'm designing, my plan to get out of here by then. Right? Then I'm going to start to develop a way. I'm going to start to purchase materials, right? I'm going to purchase boxes. I'm going to go ahead and possibly call movers. hire painters, whatever it's going to take. I'm going to start to develop those things. I'm going to put it in motion, I'm going to implement it and say, all right, everyone, let's do this. Okay. Movers are coming here. Painters are coming here. Friends are coming over to help. We're cleaning crews, whatever it's going to take. Let's put all those things into motion. Then on the very last day, I plan on standing back, evaluating and see how well it went. Does this place look move-in ready? Does it look clean? Right? Do I feel okay with how we're leaving it? Okay. I can evaluate that. Take this back to work, right? You have an individual we mentioned might be struggling. And you said, I want to provide you some training on workers' comp. Well, I assess that not enough people in our organization even know what workers' comp is and how we can do that. We're going to start to do some design here, design a course that could be helpful here, develop that, utilizing all the pieces that we put together, put it into motion. To those individuals, maybe we said, I don't need my whole entire organization learning about workers' comp. Maybe I just need this for the managers. Maybe I just need this for the individuals who work in the warehouse. Who do I want to give this to? Because training can be very expensive, and we'll talk more about that in this particular unit, right? I'm going to evaluate. I want to see if it actually helped. Hey, now that I put everyone through this workers' comp training, did they actually learn something? Do we have less claims? Do we have more claims? And even if we have more claims, maybe that's okay because now people are aware of what it takes to make a proper claim, right? So we want you, even in this class, to have a high transfer of knowledge. That's the goal. We want and I think a couple of us were talking, last time we got together, just about, hey, is this going to be on the test? What would this kind of look like on the test, right? Remember we were kind of talking about that, and I was kind of like, well, kind of, sort of, not really. We're like, does that really help? Remember us having that conversation, right? Because we understand that we can't, like we mentioned, teach to any test, right? In general. But what we were discussing, that dialogue we were having, is this little scenario right here, this 4 kind of block idea, okay? If we were going back to our exams, if I had exactly what we're hoping to see here, right? You're signing up for the aPHR class, the information that we're giving you, while not verbatim, but it's still going to be very similar to what the body of knowledge you're expected to learn, very similar to what the exams are going to be. You all will have a large positive transfer. And because of that large positive transfer, that's going to allow you to pass your exams with flying colors. Okay, that's the goal. This box here is what we really hope to achieve here. Okay, now, if you have more of a kind of a small positive transfer, so let's say you set for your exams, okay, and you set for this class, and instead of signing up for the aPHR, you signed up for your PHR. Well, you still have some knowledge about HR. You still have some knowledge about how to get things done and what these acts and laws are, but maybe not exactly how to apply it, okay? And maybe not into the depths of what you need to. So it's there, but it's a little different, right? You might be able to make maybe a 60%, a 50%, but just not knock it out the park, right? You're going to have more of a small positive transfer, okay? Did that left side of this kind of box make sense? Do we feel good about those before we add some more? All right, perfect. So, well, what if I had you study for your aPHR? Okay, you didn't study for your aPHR. Instead, you're like, I hear them, but the books are really expensive. What I think I will do is just pick up just a basic education book on business. And if you do good business, you should definitely be able to learn HR, right? I mean, how hard can it be? So, and then you sit for your exams, and even instead of taking your aPHR exam, you actually end up sitting for like your GMAT, right? And you're like, wait a second, right? And they gave you the wrong exam and everything is wrong. Well, you didn't study for that. You studied for business. You were hoping to at least take something about HR. Everything was so completely different. You had no transfer at all. Everything you needed was not there. Didn't work out for you, not there, no transfer, not good, okay? Complete waste of our time. Everything was different, okay? And then we might have a little bit of a kind of a large negative transfer on the other side of that, okay? Where we might kind of see, things, again, we go back to this idea of you all taking your exams, okay, where things are slightly different, okay? That again, let's take our aPHR. You signed up to take your aPHR, all right? But instead of this time of having a small positive transfer, you actually set for like your SPHR, like California, okay? And that was like, whoa, specifically California, a very, very high level exam. I mean, there are some HR concepts that are there, but hey, we just definitely are not going to be able to do well with that one. All right. This is what we see with a large negative transfer. All right. So I would love for you all in the chat to list what type of learner are you? Okay. And does it possibly depend upon what you're learning? Okay. I don't know about you all, but I definitely forget more than I learn in a day, right? Like what did I have for lunch? Oh yeah, how do I get that done? Right? My brain tends to kind of forget some things a lot, okay? Especially when I have a lot going on, right? Sometimes my learning style depends upon what I'm doing, right? Like if I am maybe making a painting or something, or maybe I'm doing something kind of artsy crafty, as I call it, right? I might be more of a visual learner. Okay. If you want to tell me about concepts and you want me to kind of retain them, like if I want to do some type of audio lecture, podcast, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Audio while I'm driving, that might be great. I can learn very well through topics like that. I don't have to visualize them. I can just hear people kind of speaking, and that excites me. Right. But maybe I need to do things more hands-on, kinesthetic. I'm kinesthetic whenever you want me to learn a new product. You want me to sit here and do something like in Excel, right? I have to do it with you. Right? I have to touch it, because if not, I can take all the notes in the world, but it's gone. Okay. If I don't, and especially by the time I thought I took amazing notes, and by the time that we stop the training, it's definitely gone, right? So sometimes you'll notice that might be a little bit of all of these things together. Okay. So with that being said, right, that we can be visual learners. And even in this class, in this context, we want to hit every single one of those, because you all, or as you're mentioning in the chat, you all are all of the above, right? And as Jody said, it depends. Okay. You might be a visual learner. We have the slides here for you all. You might be an audio learner, where you're able to just listen to the, recordings at a later time. Maybe that works best for you. Okay. Maybe you are more of a hands-on learner, kinesthetic learner. That's why we have the books. I tell you how to highlight. We have those flashcards that are available to you, right? So all of those things are there for you, right? I'm more of a depends myself, right? But what I want you to remember is that just like, we're a very fit but few class, okay? So let's say there's like 15 of us in here, right? And all of you all have listed various different ways in which you learn, various styles. It depends on what we're learning. Think about if you're teaching and you're wanting something to be received at your workplace. Think about the massive amounts of individuals you have at your workplace, right? How are you training to them? How are you giving them some type of message that they can hear and receive? Okay. Do you all like on-the-job training, or do you like off-the-job training? Which ones do you prefer? Okay. Again, I'm kind of like in the middle, right? I don't know about you all. I go back to kind of, depends, if you will. I can see the good things about both of them. When we think about on-the-job training, right? I like to be able to sit down. I like to be able to kind of watch. I like to be able to see if I'm getting that immediate feedback. If nope, you did it wrong. Nope, you did it right. Right. You did amazingly well. Right. I kind of like that about the on the job at points. Okay. Right? Well, I often like about on the job training that sometimes it can give you a good sense of loyalty. Think about an apprentice, right? Or someone that you feel like they taught you everything, so you owe them, like an intern sometimes, and you're like, or tattoo artists have apprenticeships. Individuals who might be getting their hair, they're a licensed to cosmetology license might have apprenticeships, and the other kind of blue collar work might have that as well. And you start to feel like, wow, they've taught me so much. I want to be very loyal to those particular individuals. Right? That might be great. Okay, you might start to do some job rotation. They love to give us job rotation at work, right? We want you to be cross-trained. That's their favorite thing to say. Our new buzzword at work is they want you to have swim lanes. Yeah, but am I swimming to more money? Okay, but they hope this will open up more opportunities. Yeah, but is my bank account being open to more opportunities? Okay, all of these things as well, right? So you might think about things like this, right? If you are kind of thinking more of coaching and counseling, right, that might be it as well, right? So all of these on the job trainings could be good. Okay. Now, the problem with on the job training might be is, hey, what about if you have someone who doesn't train you the best way? Ever been trained by someone and they'll tell you something like, I know this is the way it should be done, but this is the way that I do it. Anyone ever been trained like that? Right? They're like, okay, they're teaching you all the ways to cut the corners and get the things done. And you're like, well, now we're all messed up. Now we're all lazy. Now we all don't know the best way to do it. Okay. Ever been trying to do it on the job training? And maybe you were like in a conference room learning something and you're like, okay, I'm just going to tiptoe out really quickly and go to the restroom or grab some coffee. And someone's like, hey, since you're here, can you answer these questions? Can you help me out really quickly? You're like, no, I'm in training. And now you've missed a lot of the training because people were seeing you, people needed things, and they swore that everything they needed was immediate, right? That can be a problem. So sometimes we go more towards off the job training. That can have individuals who are more of a subject matter experts who could help us or paying to go off the job. Hey, I love a good off the job training. Whenever we are going to be like maybe going out of town in a good place, right? I love that. Sign me up for a good weekend conference or something like that. Right? That makes me happy. Okay. Something you can kind of bring your whole family on, things like that. Right. Off the job training might be that you could do something like this, Zoom, right? You might consider, depending upon your goals here, maybe your goal is only to learn more about HR, and maybe it's not your goal to possibly sit for your exams. Maybe this could be considered some of your off the job training in classes that you're going to. Okay. That might be important to you. Okay. Off the job training means that I didn't see a lot of you say that you love off the job training, but off the job training kind of will result in, ever been to training and you're like, how did this even deal with my own job? Right? Like, ever spent all this time and effort learning something and they've taken you off the job and you come back and they're like, oh, well, we don't have that version of the system. We're still on version 1.0. So you're like, well, what the heck did you send me to training for? I can't even utilize what I've done. Or you stood in for someone on off the job training because maybe your company already paid for someone else to go. And you're like, oh, this isn't even in my department. Why am I doing this? Okay, if you say so, right? So sometimes it can be kind of hard to see, right? The off the job training sometimes can be kind of hard to focus on it and bring it back to the actual work that you're doing. Okay. It can be very formal in nature. Sometimes your off the job training may not be very motivating, just might be kind of like a womp 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 womp, kind of listening to someone talk can feel very artificial in nature. It's kind of like you go to these trainings and they'll tell you this is what you should be doing, and you're like, I hear what you're saying, but my manager is never going to go for that. Or I hear what you're saying, but actually in my reality, this is what my company does. So it can be kind of frustrating sometimes, right? But they're going to be very organized, efficiently created. Okay. And some of the best trainers in the world will provide that to you. All right. So we'll do a little knowledge check. All right. Want you to I'll put a minute on the clock. Feel free. No, there's not. Just kind of keeping everyone, I had to go back and look at it. There's not, just making sure that everyone is paying attention, right? We're visual learners. That was the only reason why. All right. The major, okay, meaning that there are a lot of other differences, but the major one we're going to focus on between training and education is that training refers to acquiring blank, whereas education is more broad. You got it. Those of you who said specific skills, right? I'm going to train on how to be a nail tech. I'm going to train on how to be a refrigerator technician, right? I'm going to train on something like that, right? Keep in mind that this is probably dating myself, okay? This is for if you're taking your exams in hour spaces, if you're taking your exams and you sit for your aPHR exam, okay? Again, I say I'm dating myself because many of you may not have this problem. As you type specific skills, right? Sometimes some of us will put I am guilty of this, I will put an extra space after skills, right? So let's say if I'm going to type specific skills, I might put period, space, okay? Or I might do specific skills and I might do space, period. If anyone types like that, okay? Please keep in mind that although you would think that these systems and these computers can figure it out, they cannot. Extra spaces will have you getting these questions wrong, okay? So please keep in mind, do not put any extra spaces that do not need to be there. Yes, a space between, of course, specific skills, absolutely. But if you put extra spaces like at the beginning of the word or at the end of the word, it will not take that and will count it as incorrect. Okay, so that's the reason why I threw this question out there. Okay, because I wanted you all to kind of know that. Right. So don't worry, we'll keep those coming, but I just want you to kind of put that as well, a little pin in your studying bucket. All right, we've completed this particular section. Any questions on that? Yeah, it comes from like typing. I don't know if you ever had to do like typing classes and things like that, and they'll tell you to put an extra space and stuff like, yeah, that's where it comes from. It's a bad habit. So hopefully, I'm more of an elder millennial. I mean, hopefully you all don't have that problem. But yeah, I definitely am guilty of that. All right. So then I know we just talked about on-site and off-site training. We all just kind of discussed that. But the nature of the training delivery is important to the overall success of the employees and the employers. Okay? And the process is continuous and never ending. From the first day we bring employees into our organization, we got to train them because as we just talked about, hey, what it takes to replace an $8 an hour employee, okay? Poorly trained employees, they're a waste of our time, a waste of our money and our resources. So in training, right, this is really the key to maybe making someone who could be just an average employee, a complete rock star, an above average employee. Maybe training could be such that if someone is a horrible employee, maybe we can at least get them up to speed and now they're average. Maybe they're a good cultural fit, but don't have the training. How many of you all, as you're trying to break into HR, if you're not already here, would love just the training, just the experience, just take a chance on us, right? Because how many jobs have you been applying for? And they will tell you, they want you to have 2 years of experience. Okay. But yet it's like the entry-level jobs want 2 years of experience. It's like, well, if no one hires me, where am I going to get this 2 years of experience from? Okay. So sometimes if you are already in a place of employment, maybe if you can do some on the job training, some on-site training, that maybe you can do rotations, like we mentioned, in other departments, such as maybe your HR department, maybe that might get you some on the job training. So therefore on your resumes, as you're building them, you can say, yeah, I have this HR knowledge. Okay. And I would even, kind of a little caveat for the night, I would even make it a different kind of bucket on your resume, right? So that it stands out if you're looking to get into HR roles. Okay. So don't just be thinking about ways in which, oh, I got to get my aPHR and I got to get out of here. Okay. And this is going to open up all the doors, but we definitely hope it does. Okay, but let's also take advantage of some of the training, right? Those job rotations that you could possibly do, those cross trainings that you could do to hopefully give you some of that experience. Okay. So whenever we're looking at training and we're looking at providing some training, that you have chosen these individuals to come to listen to some message that you're going to receive. Some messages you're going to give, and you want them to receive this message. So it's important that these individuals are seated in the best way to achieve the maximum impact for your message. Okay. And you have to choose a seating style for your audience. So we're going to think through and talk through each one of these. Now, it's not to say that one is better than the other, right? But they all do have their advantages and disadvantages. So we'll start here. The blue box here is going to be the person, your instructor, if you will. So we're going to draw our instructor here. Okay. Here they are giving this lecture in a theater style room. Okay. You see everyone is going to be facing forward. Okay. Not bad. Right? But what if I'm sitting way back here? You all are better people than I am, but if I'm way back here, I've either drawn a forest full of flowers, I am on my phone, I am taking a nap, okay? I have fallen down our Pinterest rabbit hole, right? Way over here. Okay? Maybe what happens if I can't see because everyone's facing forward, okay? That could be an issue. If someone asks a question, way up here, okay? I may not be able to hear the question. I may not be able to see properly. What if I may have some type of disability or, temporary disability that has me not being able to sit way back here? And maybe are these seats available? Are these wheelchair accessible? Okay. The good thing about a theater style is that you can literally pack it with as many people as your room can fit, okay? So to the window, to the wall. It's the simplest style that you can actually utilize, okay? Seated for maximum capacity. So if you want hundreds, thousands of people to hear your message, this is the way to go, right? Think college, right? They're like, yep, everyone come about, everyone here, this is great, okay? They didn't really care too much if you were way back here. If any of you went to a huge college that your professor didn't have the time to walk around and see what you were doing, okay? No, they stood right there and just delivered this message to you, okay? If you're here, okay, and you have to get out to go to the restroom or take a phone call, it's kind of hard, right? You're disturbing everyone around you. You don't have a lot of space to take notes, to bring a laptop, all of those things. So may not be the best use of space. So therefore, maybe we look at more of a classroom style. Okay. We now don't have as many people being seated in our space. So we're going to possibly have to give this message a lot more times to reach the maximum amount of people we were hoping for. You can fit a lot of people at these classroom type tables, but now they can bring their laptops, they can bring their papers, they can have a snack. I love a good snack, right? They can do all of these things, okay? Right? Beverages, absolutely. But what could be a downside to this classroom style as we're listing some of the good? Why don't you all think about some of the things that could go awry with a classroom style? Another good thing could be, again, we're facing forward. Everyone can hear this message as well, okay? This could be good for us, right? You can feel, maybe not exactly. You could be distracted because you're kind of close to each other. That could be definitely one, right? I love that one too. Hey, someone asked a question way up here that now if they're facing this way to ask the question, their back could be to you. You may never be able to hear that. Absolutely. A good thing about the classroom is now, unlike theater, your teacher probably never walked around. Here, your teacher could at least kind of walk around, check on you, make sure things are going well, right? But again, sometimes for some of us, like me, hey, if you're way in the back of the room, maybe you're taking a nap, right? Because you're like, the teacher can't see me. They don't really know what's going on. I can kind of zone out, right? So because of that maybe instead we look at it and we just take the classroom style and we turn it to an angle. Now we have chevron. Okay, here's our teacher again. And so instead, before everyone, while in theater style, you're facing forward, you're kind of looking at the back of everyone's head. Same thing with classroom, right? We're facing forward, we're looking at the back of everyone's head. Well, now here we're staggered. So definitely the teacher can come about, check things out, see how we're doing, right? Leaves a lot of space. We're at tables now, once again. So we've got snacks, we've got laptops. We're able to kind of get in and out a little more freely. Okay, not disturbing everyone around us. Not bad. Okay, right? So this could be this is good, right? So it's very similar to a classroom. It's just angled differently. Okay, and because of those angles, once again, we're taking up space. So we very well may not be able to maximize all of the space within our classroom, right? Because now we've angled them, therefore chairs have to be angled and all of those other things. So do we feel okay with those three before we add a couple more? All right. So we have these angles going. We like these. Well, what about more of a conference style? Now, as you see here, there's no this little blue box for an instructor. So they might just be sitting down, talking at the table with everyone else. Or maybe they could be on the outside giving any type of speech or presentation that they want. Okay. Again, I don't know about you all in the conference style, but these are the types of meetings I have every day, right? Where normally my coworker is sitting across from me telling me, Helena, fix your face. How many of you all have to fix your face? Because you're sitting there and you're like, are they serious? Do they really want us to do that? They can't be for real, right? Like, oh no, do they hear themselves? So everyone can obviously see your facial expressions, right? In a conference style, you definitely are not, if they can see your facial expressions, they can also make sure that you're awake and accountable. You definitely can't fall asleep. You definitely have to pay attention in a conference style, okay? Your audience interaction is going to be fully there. Everyone's going to be engaged. Everyone's going to be enhanced. You can have food, right? You can take notes. You can have your laptops available to you, okay? Very comfortable. Right? The seating capacity is severely reduced. Okay. And your main presenter may not always be your focal point. Maybe you're looking across the table. Maybe you're doing something different. Maybe you're looking down. Okay. So maybe your person who's presenting may not be where all eyes are. Okay. So it can be kind of difficult sometimes to kind of wrangle everyone around you. Right. Well, if this doesn't work for us, we're back to having people in the front, right? We liked conference style, but we just wanted to kind of be able to have a focal point. We wanted our instructors to be able to talk to us, maybe banquet. Now we're having everyone sit together, right? So kind of like to Kathleen's point, we definitely are distracted in the banquet because now look at all these people I can put around a table. Okay. We are chit-chatting. We are doing all of these things. We're talking to everyone around us. It's amazing. Okay. We're having little sidebar conversations. Okay. If someone does ask a question way over here, okay, and I happen to be sitting over here, I can definitely hear, I can kind of angle myself. I can have notes, I can have snacks, I can have drinks. Okay. Might be a little hard if everyone is kind of trying to plug in to some type of power source. That could be maybe difficult as well. Okay, if everyone's trying to do that, you don't want to have any workers' comp accidents or tripping over anyone. And again, with your banquet style, the key here is to remember as well, we did not fill up the room to capacity once again. So that could also be an issue. But last but not least, we're going to have more of this U-shaped style, much like the conference, but instead we opened it up. Okay, so instead of everyone possibly facing inward in a conference style, okay, looking at each other, now we have taken this conference, opened it up, and now people are facing more forward, okay? Right? Your instructor could walk around, ensuring that everyone is doing what they need to do. Ever been to these U-shaped ones, and maybe the icebreakers are that they kind of throw around a bean bag or a beach ball and kind of throw on koosh balls to get people to pay attention and things like that, right? Keeping people engaged. You can do things like that in a U-shaped style. Okay, right? Always being able to have this focal point because it's open, people can walk around. The presenter can definitely approach the audience. And if you know that someone's going to kind of approach you and possibly call your name or possibly touch the desk that you're working on, you tend to definitely want to be engaged in this, right? But again, it's an inefficient use of floor space, right? Because look at all of this extra area we have all over here that we cannot utilize. Okay. So kind of like what we mentioned as well, there's not a right or wrong for any of those things. You can use whichever one works best for your training needs. But no matter which style you choose, it is imperative that you make sure it is accessibility and ADA compliant. If you have not added ADA to your spreadsheets, please make sure that you do. Gold star. You want to remember what ADA stands for? You want to remember that? I'm going to throw it in the chat. Right? Perfect. It's going to stand for your Americans with Disabilities Act. Okay. This is the act that required us to make reasonable accommodations to individuals. Right. So just like we might have a reasonable accommodation through training might be turning on closed caption. A reasonable accommodation that might be thinking about individuals who might be colorblind. So possibly having a lot of colors and particular colors in your slide decks, individuals may not be able to see that, may not even know what that is. Okay. Are they able to actually get to the training site? Are there places where they can sit? Okay, it doesn't always have to be a wheelchair accessible. What if maybe I just have a cane and I'm hard and I need accessibility because I cannot walk in long distances? Maybe I need to be able to be close to a restroom. Do I have access to something like that? Right? Maybe if I'm neurodivergent and I need to make sure that I have the training that it's going very slowly, I can take notes. I have things where I can't take notes on. Or what if even that maybe I am need an interpreter and I need sign language? Is there someone there to assist me with those types of needs? Okay, so it's very important that whenever we're providing training, that we're ensuring that everyone that we're providing this training to can actually hear and receive that message, and that we are ensuring that as well, as long as it's a reasonable accommodation, that we can do this. Okay, because we want to make sure that in the training that we're providing, that not only is it accessible to everyone, that we are reaching every single learning style, okay? And the materials that we're utilizing are going to be made in such a way that they are going to lend to those individuals who might be visual learners, might be audio learners, as well as kinesthetic learners, okay? So as HR, right, when we're getting all these materials together, whenever we're like, we need all of these aids to make sure that we are doing an amazing thing, right? That we want to make sure that, hey, there's 1,500 people going to attend this training. Maybe we just go ahead and send Jennifer to this one training, and then we have her come back and train everybody else. And since she already went to the training, how about we have her take the materials that she received and she just makes a whole bunch of copies of it? It's easy that way. We save the company a lot of money. We don't have to spend a lot of money mailing booklets out, making booklets, sending people to various different sites. Let's just have one person go and bring it all back to us. Well, as HR, right, we are the ones who have to deal with moral and ethics, okay? And we have an obligation to make sure that we're paying those individuals who we have borrowed this information from properly, okay? We're making sure that we are giving proper citing to those individuals who we are utilizing when it comes to maybe quoting them. Kind of like goes back to like making a paper back in like high school, right? That we want to make sure that we are encouraging, saying these ideas are not our own, and we're giving this credit to whomever it may be, okay? Because that's very important. All right. We don't want, if we think about it, what precedent are we setting if we're out here just taking all of this material, making a gazillion copies of these things, right? Not at all. Okay. So it's important to remember this, not just copywriting just doesn't apply to things that are like kind of written publications. Let's say if you're going to show a movie or a map of something, or maybe a chart or a table. Okay. Maybe you're going to do something like that. I mean, even if you were to like post sometimes music on like things like social media, it'll come back and say, this is copywritten, right? You can't do those types of things, right? So if you can even post things like Facebook because they're copywritten, think about huge corporations and how you can instantly be sued or something along those lines, okay? And it can easily be avoided if we just go ahead and gain permission, if we just pay for these services. So I want you to think back to any type of training that you all have been through, right? So let's say that you're really enjoying these slide decks and you want to come back and you want to present them to your manager and you want your manager to know, yep, everything that we were just talking about, training and development, I want to implement this at work. So here you go. Here's a slide deck about it, right? Well, that would be our intellectual creations, our intellectual property. Okay, so we don't want to do that, right? But instead, okay, if you were to give proper citing, if you were to do those types of things, then it would be okay. So it's not to say, that's a great question, not to say that you can't ever go out and utilize a different graph or a different chart that you got it from somewhere, but it's always good to have like a footer down below stating where you got it from, right? Great question. Yep, even if you're using music in your slide decks, absolutely. Even if you're using music in your slide decks. Right? We just don't want anyone to assume that they are ours, right? Let's do a knowledge check. Right? What are the legal restrictions on using copyrighted audiovisual materials in a training program? All right. Scrolling up, seeing what everyone went with. You all are absolutely right. Perfect. C. The trainer can view them, but cannot be shown to trainees unless the trainer has a licensed agreement. Absolutely. Now, keep in mind, okay, that some of these questions, as we're going through them, you can get them super quickly, right? You can answer them and you don't need the whole minute. Sometimes you might get into more questions that are a little more in depth, and it might take you a little bit longer. That's okay, right? But we just want to try to average, okay, just, about a minute or a minute and a half, right? Okay, so you all are doing very well with that, all right? Good job. So some of you were like, boom, you got it right out the gate. So don't feel stressed or don't feel, like, oh, I'm not doing something right if it takes you a little bit longer, okay? In fact, I always want you to, even if you know it straight out the gate, choose it, go back and reread that question just to make sure you didn't miss any words like but, and, always, something like that that can throw us off, all right? You've done it. Congratulations, you have completed that particular section. How do you all, so far, I know we're new into it, but how do you feel about that training kind of section? Is it starting to click maybe a little bit? Okay, good. I'll take a little bit, right? I'll take it. Right? I'll take the little bits, okay? Absolutely. Nope, and that's okay, right? And so that's such a good point that I'm glad that you made, okay? So I think that as this section starts to click, you'll be like light bulbs, right? Because you can relate. And I think the next section, if I'm not mistaken, is like compensation, right? You're going to click with your money because if it's your money, you're going to figure it out, right? You'll start to click with that too. Okay. So then you'll start to find yourselves kind of in a groove and in a pattern of, okay, this is important. This isn't important. I should know that. I shouldn't know that, right? Like you'll start to be able to have that more discernment yourselves versus me telling you. Don't get me wrong. I'll still tell you. But you'll start to have that kind of muscle yourself. And then what I always advise people is that once you've completed all of the sections, go back to section 1. Okay. And then apply all of that kind of muscle that we've been building back to section 1. Don't even try to reread section 1 right now. Let it go. If you haven't done it, it's not where it needs to be. That's okay. Okay. Let it go. Right. Let's start fresh where we are right now with section 2, and then let's move on. Okay. Because you will sit there and try to get it in section 1, and then you'll always be like behind, not feeling confident about the next sections. So don't worry. Come back to section 1. I don't care if you've read it. I don't care if it didn't quite click, right? All of the things, right? Because we're going to start building and adding other things onto this that you'll be like, oh, okay, good, right? No, don't freak out, okay? Or freak out loud, because all of us are freaking out. I don't know either way, right? You're not in this alone, okay? Because you will find that section 1 is a blur. You're just trying to figure out how to read. You're just trying to figure out, not to say that you all can't read, right? But you're just trying to figure out a schedule on when to read, what to read, how to do that, when to study, how to add this into your work lives, your day-to-day lives. It's a lot in section 1. And it's like, hey, by the way, I signed up for this class. Don't waste my money, right? It's in your face. So I feel like by section 2, which is this, we breathe a little bit better. We can relate to this a little bit better. And then we're like, okay, this is not so bad. Okay. So I always say it's okay if you completely can't remember section 1, if it means nothing to you right now. I'm okay with that. Come back to it. Okay. At the very end, right? That extra week that we have, even come back to section 1, reread section 1. Then whenever you have this new idea on how to study, when you have this new idea on what this looks and feels like. Okay. Keep those acts and laws that we were working on already. Like I mentioned, keep them in that spreadsheet, put them on your refrigerator, right? Like as you're cooking dinner, you're opening the refrigerator, you can read an act or law that's on a sticky note, that's on a magnet right there for you. You can read them that way. Okay. Break down those wonderful flashcards. Okay. Like when you see that huge stack that's color coded, whoa, it's a lot. Okay. Break them down to the units that you need, and then maybe throw them in your book bag. So maybe while you're at a soccer game, football game on a Saturday, while you're waiting for your friend who's habitually late at the bar, right? Break them out and just wait and just read a couple of them while you're there. It seems ridiculous, but you'd be surprised how they just kind of stick into your mind. Okay. And as you grasp that particular color, add the next color. Don't try to do all of them all together. It's a lot. Okay. Take them in little chunks. Okay. And then you'll feel a lot better. Right? Think about it like going for tapas or appetizers. You could eat like 10 appetizers and then feel full, or you can go to like, the buffet. This isn't a buffet. Let's eat little appetizers of this. You'll get it. You'll feel full, and it'll stick into your mind a lot better. Right? When you go to a buffet, you're like, whoo, I was full. And I ask you, well, what did you eat? You're like, I don't know. I ate a whole bunch of food. If you go and you have little bites or little tapas or appetizers, you're like, oh, well, the chicken egg rolls were great. The cabbage wraps were good. Oh, I really like the spare ribs. Like you can remember all of those things, right? And I tried this particular sushi. You like it. You remember it, right? Small chunks. It'll help you remember. Right? All right. Well, I hope that helps. Try to implement that in your week this week. Okay. Thank y'all so much. As always, we will see you same bat time, same bat channel on Thursday. Yay, the internet is still up and working. So we're good to go. You all stay safe as well. And I will see you all Thursday.